Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm one of your hosts, Noor Kyle, along with...
Your other one of your hosts, Mushtaq Ali.
Yeah, and if you're joining us live, as always, I'm grateful you guys are here. I love when you guys are able to join us. And for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for being here, too. Thanks for taking time to watch our videos. And if you end up enjoying what you see, give us a like. Subscribe to our content. We're always putting stuff out at least once a week. We have multiple things going on. You can subscribe to our newsletter to find out more. But we really appreciate engagement. So if you feel called to comment or to leave feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, go for it. We really appreciate that. So what we have going on today is we're going to be talking about breath. Tell us more, Mushtaq. Did I leave anything out in terms of our YouTube spiel?
Only, please, please, please subscribe to our channel. We're begging you. We're groveling. We need more subscription. Actually, we would just love for you to subscribe to our channel. We're almost at, like, I forget how many subscriptions. I think we're sneaking up on 200, which would...
Yeah. 200's a big number for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing for the big guys, but for us, 200 people subscribing to our channel is huge. And we're very excited about that. And when we hit 200 subscribers, we're going to do something special for you.
Yay.
And we're not going to tell you what it is so that it will be a surprise. And it will probably involve Noor wearing a hat made out of a bird's nest, probably with the bird still in it.
I would wear that hat. The bird and I would be friends.
Yeah, little burbs.
Burbs. So, breath. Yes.
Breath. So, one day, Mullah Nasruddin Hoja was sitting under a tree, minding his own business, when a bunch of students came up to him. And they said to him, Mullah, you must help us resolve this important question. We are trying to figure out what is most important in life. Now, Hasim over here says that it is saying the prayers 5 times daily, that is the most important thing. And Jafar over here, the one with the pointy beard and the evil look in his eye, says that power is the most important thing. And Mustaqim over there, he says that it is giving charity, that this is the most important thing. Mullah looked at them and he said, all right, I will tell you the answer, but first, take in a big breath, hold it, don't let it out. And he just sat there looking at them. Just waiting. So what do you think? What's the most important thing in life? This is a trick question. How many of you are still holding your breaths? You can let it out now.
What do you think, Nancy?
Well, I mean, obviously the answer is breathing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Staying alive is like fundamental to anything else.
Yep.
This is true.
Aaron says, breath! Exclamation point.
Yep. Yep. As people have pointed out, you can go 3 months without food. You can go 3 days without water, but most people cannot go 3 minutes without breath. And as far as I know, nobody can go 10 minutes without a breath.
There are people who've been working on it. I think it's like 17 minutes now.
I would like to see the data on that. I know of people who've done close to 10 minutes, the deep free divers, but 17 minutes is impressive. But think about it. You know how short 17 minutes is. It's only long if you're waiting at a doctor's office, but at all other times, 17 minutes is pretty short. So
Aaron says he's gotten to 2 sitting still and warming up. So yeah, I mean, case in point, this is not easy to do, and we all eventually need to breathe sometime. We cannot do without that.
It's true. And the great masters of yore, the ancient and wise peoples who have created the paths upon which we tread, have said with malice aforethought in the precepts of the Hojjagan, the 9 precepts of the teachers. The first one is Hoshtardam, awareness of breath. And without that, you have nothing else. So tonight, we're going to talk about breathing. We're going to talk about why it's so important, other than the fact that you die very quickly if you don't do it. There are other things about it that make it even more interesting than keeping you alive moment to moment. So, how many of you know what the vagus nerve is? You don't get to say yes, Noor. Anybody? Can anybody tell me what the vagus nerve is? Cherie, I know you must know.
Well, you're talking about coming out of the central nervous system and now down to the trunk.
Yes. Yeah, the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. The cranial nerves do not go through the spinal column. They come out of the brainstem and they move through the face and the mouth and the body. Now, the 10th cranial nerve is called the vagus nerve, and all of the cranial nerves are paired or twinned. So you have a right and a left. And the vagus nerve runs all the way down to the base of the spine, basically. And vagus in Latin, it's the same root as vagabond. It means wandering, because the nerve looks like it kind of twists around through the body. It goes through the throat and the chest, around the heart, all through the viscera. It impinges on all of the gut organs in some way or another, and then kind of ends down at the pelvic floor, pretty much. And if you know anything about Indian, quote, metaphysical anatomy, you all know that there's the chakras, right? And the chakras are aligned along a nadi. Nadi means a tube in Sanskrit, a nadi that runs straight down the body. And on either side of the nadi are 2 other very important nadis. The nadi that the chakras are sitting on is called Sushumna. And then you have Ida and Pingala, which are twinned nadis that, interestingly enough, follow where the vagus nerve is, basically. So the Sushumna is the spinal cord, and the Ida and Pingala are the 10th cranial nerve, which is extremely important to the function of the body. So it's not like this is news to anybody. Speaking of Mustaqim, so you have that going. Now, we do know that the vagus nerve is deeply involved in 2 things. The first of which is that it is responsible in great part for the fight or flight mechanism. If it is stimulated in one way, it creates either the energy to run away or the energy to attack something that is scaring you. It's also involved in what I call the flop and feed, which is the opposite of the fight or flight. It's be relaxed, eat something, feel good, kick back, rest. And then it has a third part where you get a combination of these two, of aspects of these two that work together to where you can be alert but relaxed. Now, interestingly enough, we have a mechanism for regulating the vagus nerve and making sure that the vagal tone, the tone of the nerve, is what we want it to be, as opposed to what it might habitually be. In a lot of people, it's habitually leaning towards the fight or flight. This is why people have lots of anxiety, they don't sleep good, they have stomach troubles, all of this kind of stuff, because the vagus nerve touches every organ, right? Your pancreas isn't happy, it's the vagus nerve may be sending it the wrong signal. Your spleen isn't happy, same thing. Your stomach isn't happy. I mean, the entire enteric nervous system, which is mediated through the vagus nerve.
There are definitely some signs in the research that things like IBS are tied to, you know,
Yep.
vagal tone tending towards the, how do we phrase that? Because we have, you know, the dorsal and then the ventral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Dorsal, which means down the back, is the part of the vagus nerve that seems to stimulate fight or flight. It's the one that hits the kidneys and goes, release the adrenaline from the adrenal glands, which sit right on top of the kidneys. The ventral seem to have much more to do with the happy relaxation. So there's a couple of ways that the vagus nerve can be regulated. And I'm going to show you one that I learned from a guy who's done a lot of research on it. This is not something that is a tool of the school, but it's fun. Basically, you take your hands, you put your fingers together like this. A lot of people want to do it laying down first, but you put your hands behind your head and you get them nice and comfy. And get them kind of even, lift the head up a little bit. And I'm here. Now, without turning my head, I'm going to look to the right. And I'm going to just hold this in this position with my elbows back as far as they can go until something like that happens, a sigh or a yawn. And when that happens, I'm going to do the same thing and I'm going to look to the left. And I'm going to wait until I get that same sort of reaction, a sigh or a yawn or, yeah, you'll know it when it happens. It's just a little, that, and then you can look straight ahead. That is a weird little way to activate the vagus nerve. And it activates specifically the ventral area. I don't know why it works. I can't tell you why it works, but it definitely works. And I've seen the, you know how you attach the EEG like things to the body. You can read all sorts of nerves that way, and you can see the stimulus happening. But that's not the way that we usually activate the vagus nerve, because the other way that the vagus nerve activates is through breath. Breath practice, amongst its many benefits, correct breath practice stimulates the proper tone in the vagus nerve. This is not metaphysics. There is hard science that demonstrates this. And what the scientists have figured out is that you want your exhale to be longer than your inhale. That's pretty much what they know. If your exhale is longer than your inhale, then your vagus nerve is going to be activated in the correct way. Now, we know a little bit more than that because we've been doing this for a while. And one of the things that we know is that, yes, the exhale needs to be longer than the inhale. The pause at the end of the exhale is incredibly important. You can hook up a blood pressure cuff to yourself and practice a long exhale with a pause, and you will watch your blood pressure go down during that pause. And that's a sign that your vagus nerve has been activated and is sending you happy signals. You can also make your blood pressure go up merely by doing a sharp inhale and then holding at the top of the inhale. Your blood pressure will just start going right up. We also know that the emotions can be regulated through breath, because every emotion you feel has a breath pattern that goes with it. Seriously, I want you to all do this. I want you to start breathing way up here. Short, high clavicular breathing. And notice what feelings it brings up. Most of you are going to feel a little nervous in one way or another. Now, I want you to do slow exhales from the belly. Notice how that's different. Now, I want you to take a sharp breath in, scrunch your brows, and go. And notice how that made you feel. Now, take a slow breath in, nice and relaxed, and do this. Long, low sound out. Think of it like a purr. And you notice that that'll change the way you feel. For me, that's a much more pleasant feeling. So just with this, we know that we can change our state through breathing. How did you guys feel with all of that? Somebody talk to me.
It's like you can generate instant anger, instant anxiety, and then instant relaxation if you're attuned to those sensations.
Exactly right. Nancy, what did you think?
Well, seemed more like a thread until you suggested moving it towards a purr. I also noticed on the clavicular breathing that I was trying to get a headache.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how much of headaches might be a result of breathing patterns.
Oftentimes for tension headaches, there can be a correlation. The clavicular breathing will raise your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't want anybody to do it too long, because none of us need high blood pressure. But it will raise your blood pressure, and it will raise your anxiety levels, and it will start releasing adrenaline and cortisols into your bloodstream if you do it long enough, and it's no fun. So
Erin says it felt good, like being behind the steering wheel.
now that's a good attitude.
Mm.
Yes, you can play your feelings like an organ, no pun intended. Zainab, what do you think?
The purr sound is good. It pushes the breath out in a active way.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
Well, you've been taking singing lessons from Noor, so you have done some stuff that makes sounds. And the thing that I notice when she's around, she always practices before you guys have your lesson, so I get to hear what's going on. And I noticed that a lot of them do these really wonderful breath effects coming from music rather than meditation, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here and I'm thinking just how many shared qualities there are between the breath work we do as a meditation practice and the breath work that we do as a singing practice. And they're not exactly the same, but they're very similar. Yeah.
Zoha, where is my little yogi? Well, maybe not so little. Medium-sized yogi.
Yes, you picked on me. You picked on me on that one.
It's bound to happen eventually.
Yes. I mean, it's a big relief for me, and I've heard like other using other part of your other organs to do the exhale, but still this method empties me out the most and then makes me ready for the next inhale. And yes.
Good, thank you. So we're going to go way back, 2,000 years ago or so. And got to switch my glasses. Now, the Yoga-Sutras of Patanjali talk about, by the way, if you don't have me to translate them for you, this book, the Yoga-Sutras of Patanjali by Chip, you see his name there. We'll put a link down below somewhere so you can find this book, because I consider it the best translation that is in print right now. It is the most accessible to the Western mind. We can wrap ourselves around it and not have it be obscure and weird like so many of the other translations are. And
Did you lose your page?
Nope, I have it right here. I'm
Cool.
this is the English, and I'm reflecting on the Sanskrit real quick because, well, I like his translation. It is not perfect. And there's some things, there's words that he's added that shouldn't be there. Nothing really big except on this one. So I have to think over what it actually says. And I don't have the Sanskrit in front of me, and I don't want to take the time to get it right now. With effort relaxing, the flow of inhalation and exhalation can be brought to a standstill. This is called breath regulation. Breath regulation is a translation of pranayama. Prana means breath. It means energy. It means a lot of things, but the fundamental meaning of the word is breath. Yama means to bind. Means binding, tying, controlling. So the controlling of the breath. As the movement patterns of each breath, exhalation, pause, inhalation, are observed as to duration, number, and area of focus, breath becomes spacious, subtle. In the original Sanskrit, the inhalation is not even mentioned in this particular line. If I'm remembering correctly. But be that as it may, the emphasis is on exhalation, pause, inhalation. And that the description here that breath becomes spacious and subtle. That's what it feels like when you do this correctly. As realization dawns, the distinction between in-breath and out-breath fall away. And that is the most interesting thing, because as it says here, the veil lifts from the mind's luminosity. So this is not a new idea. You know, the Yoga Sutras are maybe 2,000 years old. And he's just talking about something that people knew a long time before him. The Vijnana Bhairava is another text that goes through the space between the breaths as being incredibly important. And so I will tell you that there are a number of different breathing practices that we teach. But the most important one, the one that we will teach to everybody, is a breathing practice that is a long exhale, maybe a count of 9, a pause for probably a count of 5, and then an inhale for a count of 3. So it goes like that. Let's all do this. And as it happens, okay, I am going to play a little thing that I have here so that you will be timed. It's going to start with an inhale, and then there's a pause, and then there's the exhale. So this is inhale for 3.5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds. So get ready, and we're going to do this. Now, before we do this, let me tell you how to inhale and exhale. You exhale using your core muscles. Think about your navel being pulled towards your spine. At the end of the exhale, your diaphragm pulls up. So I'm going, and the diaphragm going up is the sign for the pause. Once you get good at this, your entire transverse abdominis squeezes the exhale out of you. So it's going to feel like a tube that starts from your spine and goes to your navel. It does this. So it's going like that. Notice the cool breath sounds. I do that for free. So let's try this. Exhale from the belly, using the abdominal muscles to squeeze the air out. Pause with the diaphragm slightly lifted. And when you breathe in, you just passively relax all of that, and the air comes in. And the smoother the belly is on the release, the better you are doing it. So, are you ready? Ready or not, here we come. Inhale. Hang on. We're going to try this again. There. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Pause. Relax. and relax. Let yourself breathe normally. Now that was just a slight taste of this practice. All of you who are here should know this practice. If you do nothing else, if you do not a single other thing in the way of practices, and you do this, you will achieve enlightenment in this lifetime, or the next, or the one after, but mostly this one. So it's got that going for it. So this is, we call this the fundamental breath, because we got to call it something. And let me switch my glasses back so I can see the screen. Now, what else is important about breath? This is not a rhetorical question. All right, let me give you a hint. One of the things that I run into in my private teaching is that any number of people will say, I don't have time to do practices. I got all of this stuff I got to do in the real world, etc., ad infinitum, ad nauseum. I can't do it because I ain't got no time. The one practice that you can do anytime, anywhere is your breath practice, because you got to breathe anyway. You know, you cannot meditate. You can go through the whole day and not meditate. You can go through the whole day and not do any physical exercise, but you cannot go through the day without breathing. So all you have to do is breathe consciously and adopt one of the patterns that you have received from a competent teacher in breath work. And I will tell you, for every competent teacher, in my personal experience, there are about 1,000 incompetent ones. So caveat emptor. I'm feeling mean today. Just shaking my fist.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how can someone tell the difference if they don't have the experience to know?
Pay really, really close attention to the effect that the breathing practice has on your body.
Yeah.
That's one way.
Yeah, Aaron's mentioning the correlation between, you know, breathing habits and stress.
Yep. So if your breathing practice makes you more stressed, perhaps you shouldn't do it.
So we know that early on when you taught me this practice, I made it stressful.
Yes.
Yeah, so what would you have to say for people who find themselves in a similar situation?
Why did you make it stressful?
I overthought it. I thought it was more complicated than it actually was.
Yeah, in other words, you did not follow my instructions.
I suppose not.
No, you made it hard instead of easy.
Yes.
And that wasn't your fault, because you were the student back then, and it's my job to monitor you to know that you're doing it right. And when we caught it, we fixed it, and then all of a sudden it became a lot easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is why it's nice to have mentorship and someone to work with one-on-one. To have someone actually, you know, get to witness what you're doing, making sure whether, you know, checking on your technique and such.
Yeah, there's an old saying that I'm going to paraphrase, which is, if you do not have a teacher, you have shaitan as a teacher. It's not always true, but it can be more often than not.
Aaron says, I focus on the exhale and go from there.
Yeah, you can't hardly go wrong doing that. Focus on the exhale, make sure the pause is there, relax on the inhale, and you got it. There is nothing particularly hard about this one.
Yeah, and you don't have to go on for seconds and seconds if that doesn't feel good. You can work your way up to that, of course, but that's not where you have to begin.
Yeah, I worked my way up to a pause of 23 seconds. That's how I know I'm doing this right. When I can hold that stillness for 23 seconds, then perfect.
It's been rare, but I have been able to do that at certain times too, which is amazing. It's really,
Yeah.
it's not the point though. I think we need to
No.
stress that.
It's not the point, but when you get to that, when you hit that point, you understand what they're talking about with finding the stillness.
Right, yes. Shuri, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron on the emphasis on the exhale, because I find that with the practice and with other people that I've been working with, they fail to exhale fully, and so they tend to then keep inhaling and not exhaling fully, and then they get themselves in a mess. But I also find that if you're walking quickly, or as I'm playing tennis and I'm starting to lose the breath, that's when I know I'm not exhaling and let that natural inflow come in. So you play these funny little games in your head, like just be like Roger Federer. You just never see him heaving for breath when he's playing, and he's shot after shot after shot. But when I'm playing, it's like that. When you know that you're going from one side to the other, the breath, it's like an active practice where you can feel I'm not actually inhaling fully and I'm not exhaling fully. And when you slow it down and do the count on yourself, you find yourself able to create a stamina and an endurance, and it's enjoyable because you're ready for the next point. And I always feel that, like when I'm getting ready to serve again, I've just had that point and I'm getting ready, I always check in. Am I heaving, or am I actually doing that breath in and out fully and actually feeling? So the difficulty of when you're doing a sitting practice where you're doing the breath practice, the overthinking happens when you stop feeling. You stop feeling how the breath goes in and out of you. You stop feeling the qualities of its temperature, its dryness, it's moist, it's fast, slow, that whole pacing thing, the feeling of it. When you start feeling your breath, feeling the different structure that it's affecting. So, leaving a hand on your belly, leaving a hand on your chest, and you're feeling, where am I directing my breathing as I'm doing this breath practice, has helped me immensely versus just doing a count. The count means I'm up here too much versus the feeling of lengthening the exhale. What does that do for my body versus saying it has to be 9 counts? It has to be 3
Oh,
counts.
yeah, I totally agree. I think this is a starting point for people who don't know how to bring this into a physical activity or haven't done it before at all. And
Yeah, I do the same thing in my fencing, where I time my attacks on the exhale and the pause.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about the pause is that you have your finest motor control during that pause. So if I have to do a fancy disengage and something along those lines, I'm going to do it during that pause.
I think people who do those miniature art things, I don't know how to describe it. What's that?
Modeling, sculpture, miniature sculpture.
Yeah. They have to use breath control in order to produce their art, and they know this intimately.
And all of the martial arts have it at one way or another. I had a friend who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he was showing me how he was taught if he got really tied up, somebody was really creeping on him, how he could use his breath to roll out of and slip out of what they were doing. And it was like trying to hold a snake. As he was breathing, he just started doing this breath, and he was like squirted out of my arms. And I'm not used to having that happen. And he learned it from one of the Gracie brothers, the cool one who stays out of all the politics. I forget his name.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
But Aaron makes a good point. He says, stress seems to lead to artificial inhalation.
Yes. And power breathing, it's interesting because power breathing produces power. Where you go, right, you pressure down, you can produce power that way. There is no doubt about that. And a lot of martial arts rely on that. You look at Sanshin breathing kata, that is, you know, very popular with a lot of the Okinawan and Japanese karate, and that came from China, and that was a form of Shaolin breathing. The only trouble is that it's hard on your body. If you don't care if you live to be a ripe old age, you know, it's a great way to go. But I myself would rather live to be a ripe old age. So.
Ki. I'm not familiar. Is that the name of the
Qi is the Japanese equivalent
practice?
to the Chinese Qi.
Ah, yeah, yes, you're right. Yep.
So, what do you think?
What do you think, Omar?
Not thinking much, actually. Yeah, I find it's interesting. I haven't really played around with breath that much. I've played around with a little bit, but for some reason it's never really drawn me, but I'll have to play with it some more.
Yeah. Dude, that's how I grew back my hair.
It's working. Aaron likes air. I like air too. Air is nice.
Air is your friend or your enemy. It's interesting because your body wants the proper balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. I've mentioned this before, the Bohr effect. Oxygen does not transfer from red blood cells to the cells of the body except in the presence of carbon dioxide. The more carbon dioxide in your blood, the easier it is for the oxygen to move across through the cell membranes to the cells. No carbon dioxide, no moving across. It's a weird phenomena. So the breathing pattern that I gave you makes your blood carbon dioxide rich. And so it means that you absorb oxygen more easily. Also, interestingly enough, it's one of the ways to probably increase your lifespan. There are, something that we've noticed is that people who live at high altitudes, a lot of groups of them tend to have pretty impressive lifespans. And the thought is that they are naturally balancing their carbon dioxide and oxygen because there ain't as much oxygen up there.
Aaron says oxygen needs the medium of exchange, i.e. carbon dioxide.
Yep.
Too.
So this would be a good point to raise with some of the people that are on my lines who are refusing to wear masks because they feel that they get too much carbon dioxide and not enough
Oh
oxygen.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people are entirely full of shit. I speak as somebody who used to work in a hospital and had to wear masks for long periods of time, oftentimes while doing pretty heavy exertion, because I worked in psych. And when I wasn't working in psych, I was working in the emergency room, especially if they had a psych patient brought in. And that means sometimes you have to physically restrain somebody so that they won't hurt themselves, which means you're working hard. Anybody who's done any wrestling will tell you it's hard work. And oftentimes you had to do it with a mask on because you're in an emergency room. Maybe they have cut themselves open really bad, and they need to be stitched up and all of this kind of stuff. So masks do not inhibit your ability to do anything. Sorry.
Yeah, with the caveat that some people may have medical conditions, but now they're saying
Yeah,
have a doctor's note. I mean,
that's rare though.
yeah.
There are a few medical conditions where wearing a mask can be difficult, but most of these people do not have it.
I think the long story short, the too long didn't read, is that wearing a mask is not going to kill you via carbon dioxide inhalation.
Whereas not wearing a mask can in fact kill you through being an asshole. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about the breath. So here is my suggestion to everybody. This week, I would love it if you did this practice every time you thought about it, because you don't need to set aside time to do this. You need 0 extra time to do this practice. You just need to remember to do it when you're breathing. And since you're breathing all the time, what the heck? And you don't have to follow, I mean, I use the 5, 3, 8 pattern to teach people how to do it, because you have to have something to teach people. But once you get the feel for it, the long exhale, the pause of, as long as it's comfortable, and then the relaxed inhale. And the inhale should come from the belly. And one of the things that you'll notice is that at first, when you release your abdominal muscles, there's going to be catches in them. It isn't a smooth, it's going to be, and then, and those catches are blockages that you need to work out. And this is the best way to do it, other than you go see somebody like Cherie who can help you work them out. But yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. I noticed that when I first started doing this, and now the inhale is nice and smooth, but you can hear it. What you hear is like that. And those are the catches. And what you want to work toward, and this will take weeks to months, so be patient. What you want to work towards is that smooth, natural relaxation that comes from the belly, not the chest. If you just inhale from the chest, you're probably not going to get enough air to be comfortable. So you want that nice diaphragmatic release. The abdominal muscles all relax. The gut expands and it draws the air in. And then you exhale the same way.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
When you say diaphragmatic breathing, and if someone has a strong pattern of breathing from their clavicles and using their secondary inspiration muscles, is to put a heat weight or a weight, those like a weighted vest or something, to keep the shoulders down so that they can't raise the shoulders even a millimeter to take the breath in, because that's what they'll do. They think they're actually doing it from their diaphragm. So if you have something heavy like a heat weight or heat pack or something, you put on your shoulder, and you'll notice that you'll actually try and lift. So this is one of those things, and I often teach people how to stretch those parts of their neck where it's really tight, because you've got to actually pull that down and take the head back with your mouth open. But just that suggestion of having weight on your shoulders so that you're aware of trying to pull in from the diaphragm.
That's a really good idea. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was early in my singing lessons, I remember constantly getting told, okay, you're breathing up here. You need to breathe down in the belly. And you got to remember that this just is supposed to stay still and relaxed. And you don't want to see these muscles bulging out from the strain of breathing in. Yeah, so that's a really good pro tip.
Yeah. So, do you want to learn a little stretch on that, or
Yeah, go for it. You have
Okay.
good things for that. Hopefully this will be as cool as the finger thing.
Well, I learned this from a friend. My preference is to actually drop my head down. Say if I'm stretching the right side of my neck, so you can see the V. That's your sternocleidomastoid, and your scalenes are just either side of theirs. There's three of them. I won't go into the anatomy. Just know that these muscles, because they're attached to the top ribs up here, have a tendency to pull up. And because if your head is forward, they're going to be short and contracted because they're always working all the time. This is locked long. So when you actually bring yourself back over your hips and you drop your chin towards your clavicle here, you can scoop in from the extra skin and just pin it down. And then when you have a soft mouth, don't close your jaw, bring it back to neutral here, keeping the mouth open, and you still got it pinned. Actually take your head back, and it's not going to hyperextend because you're pinning it down. How much pressure do you apply is, if this was a peeled boiled egg, it'd be squashed completely flat. So this is quite a firm contact. So if everybody does that now, just drop your chin forward, turn to one side, use the opposite hand, not the hand on the same side. Pin it down so you've got your fingers tucked in behind your collarbone, and then put the other hand on top to support those fingers. Keep your mouth soft. Slowly bring your face back to the front. Open your mouth. Roll your head back. Hold. Now close the bottom jaw up to your nose. So close the teeth and then softly tilt away. Just like 1 centimeter or 1 inch, just away. And then softly with your lower jaw, move your lower jaw side to side. You'll hear a lot of cracking. And then you bring your jaw back to normal position, back to the center, soft mouth open, and then roll your head forward and then look up, let go, shrug your shoulders, and just feel how different that is on that one side. You can feel that side's had a real decent stretch, and that actually helps release that fascia. So then everything's more relaxed. You can also do it by putting your palms on your chest, hold your chest down, so right just underneath your collarbones, and do the same thing. Let's do the other side in this secondary technique. So open the mouth, roll the head back, close the teeth, tilt to the other side, so you're stretching the other side of your throat, and wiggle your lower jaw side to side. Oh, I've got a crack. Then I bring myself back to the center, let go, drop forward, always counter pose, and then slowly bring your head back up. Give your shoulders a shrug. That's 2 options. It releases the TMJ through here because that's used when you clench your jaw and you're pulling up on your neck muscles in here. So now, when you're breathing, you're going to be using lower down because all of this is now nice and relaxed.
That was brilliant. Thank you.
Yay, thanks. Yeah.
Yep. And easier to do for most people than the finger thing. Yeah. So usually when we talk about breath, we talk about 3 levels of breath. There is the clavicular, the thing that you were just working on if you were following that. There's the thoracic breath. And then there's the abdominal breath. There's one more level of breath, which is the pelvic breath, which engages the pelvic floor in the breath. And that's beyond what we can talk about here, but we'll get into it in another video. The abdominal breathing has to do with being present and relaxed and centered. Thoracic breathing has to do with accessing anger. Clavicular breathing has to do with accessing fear. How you can basically think about it. And that's, I mean, this is incredibly simplistic because we don't have a lot of time to talk over all of this stuff, but that's the basics. So, any thoughts, any questions? Let us open the floor. I'm going to switch from speaker view to Brady Bunch view so we can all see us all talk. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mustaqim.
Woo! Yeah, we didn't get to greet Mustaqim. Thanks for being
Hello,
here,
hello.
man.
Yes, sorry. I always have meeting at the morning, so I going to be late. Sorry for that.
It's
No
okay,
worries.
no. I'm glad you're able to
We'd
be
love
here.
to have you, so.
Yeah.
Because it's Monday and a lot of meeting from the office.
Yep.
I'm still working from home though, so the meeting is online too.
Cool. Awesome. So, Zainab, do you have any thoughts?
Her thought is, I hate it when you make me talk.
Not really, actually.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm still gonna poke at each of you, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Quick last thought. I know Cherie has to take off pretty quick.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to thank Cherie for her good lessons on how to release the tension here so that we can do more of the breathing that we've talked about throughout the rest of the talk. And yeah, those are really useful insights. Thank you. So, how are you doing?
Doing good. Tuning in.
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome.
All right. Well, goodbye, Cherie.
Bye, Cherie. Thanks for everything.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's probably our sign that we need to wrap this up because it is getting late.
But as always, thanks for joining us, guys. I feel
Yeah.
like we learned some new skills today. If we didn't know them before, then this is a great refresher talking about the vagus nerve and how that relates to our emotional well-being and how breath practice can help us navigate toning our vagus nerve and all that stuff.
Yes. And how breath practice is the one thing you can do no matter how busy you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No
Let's not
excuses.
forget that. Yep. That goes for everyone, including us teacher types. Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next week.